What's up, FPV enthusiast? So, as just about everyone in the FPV community knows, one of the biggest names in the community, if not the biggest name in the community, is Joshua Bardwell. And that's why I decided to get my hands on this new Lumineer QAV-S 2 Joshua Bardwell edition frame. And we're going to assemble this frame today and take a look at it just so we can get a look at how it looks and see what it's all about. So let's go ahead and hop on over to the table and take a look at what's inside. I'm Hypnos FPV. Someone's going to learn something today. I can't do it. I just can't do it. All right, so here we are. Here's the box for the frame. Pretty simple. Got QAV-S 2, the Joshua Bardwell edition. All right, so opening it up here, and we've got simple packaging here. We've got the top and bottom plate. Got the JB logo on there. That's pretty cool. Your standard Lumineer battery strap. Probably won't be using this. I haven't really been a fan of these Lumineer straps, but it's always nice to have some backups just in case you need it. Your standard frame hardware. Here we have the battery strap. I will not be using this one because I have an Oma grip in this cool purple color, which matches the JB theme quite nicely. So we'll be using this instead. A little bit more hardware here. We'll set that aside for now. What we got in here? Okay, so open this up so we can take a look at it. So here we have the aluminum camera plates in purple, and these actually feel really durable. I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, those are the camera plates. Next here we have, I believe this is the, this mounts to the bottom of the frame. I can't recall exactly how these work, so we'll take a closer look at these once I figure out what they go to. But again, made of aluminum, same material as the camera plates, and they feel nice and durable. And here we have the standoffs, quite short. Actually, much shorter than I expected they would be. That's interesting. So if you've had the QAV-S frames before, it's made exactly the same, but they're just much shorter. In fact, give me one moment and I'll get one of the old QAV-S frame standoffs to compare these two. Don't mind it being dirty, but yeah, here's one of the old JB QAV-S standoffs. That's the size difference there. I believe these ones are the same size as the shorter ones that were on the version 1 frame, but these are the taller standoffs for the old frame. And next we have new arms. I believe they are similar, but also a different design as the old ones. I have a comparison here, so let's go ahead and just open this up so we can pull one out. We have this full cutout here. This is the old one, so similar yet different. But the one thing to note here is actually that they appear to have the same mounting design here. So I do think it is possible to use the old arms with this if you needed to. I know I have probably about a dozen spare arms, so you know, if I end up breaking one of these, I'll give it a try and see how that works out. And I do also have the horned arms here, and as you can see, it does have the same general cutout design. Obviously it's a different shape, but the cutouts in it do appear to be about the same. And again, it is the same mounting. And then we also have the GoPro mount here. It's an interesting design. I usually use a fixed GoPro mount for my quads, so maybe, so if it's possible, I'll probably end up going that route with it just because I prefer that. But maybe I'll give this a try just to see how it looks and works. And that does it for all the parts here in the box. So I think that we can set the box aside here and then we can get to building. So I did forget to mention here in the box, we also have a fold open instruction manual here, which is really nice. So the first page here gives us a rundown of all the parts that we have. And then on the next page, it starts step-by-step instructions on how to actually build the frame. And I believe, yep, the last few steps here are on the very back page. I definitely like it when the instructions are included because I don't know why, but I always find myself having trouble trying to figure out how a frame goes together, and I always seem to need to end up searching online for assembly instructions. So the first step here says, start the assembly by using the split rear plate to mount the X-Lock flight controller isolator with the M3 by 22 millimeter and the M3 by 6 millimeter screws. So right away it's telling us that we need to use this here, and they are calling it the split rear plate, which is needed to mount the X-Lock flight controller isolator. Alright, so in the instructions here, it might be a little hard to see in the video here. I'll try and zoom in on it a little bit for you. We can see that we have the 20 by 20 and 30 by 30 mounting screw holes here. So if you happen to be confused at which one of these plates that look pretty similar you need to use, just look for the plate that has the screw holes for your stack. Also, looking at the picture here, it looks to be that the flat part is where this plate needs to go onto it, and the little notches in this here, so this part here looks like it needs to mount side to side, not top to bottom, so pay attention to that. The one thing I do wish that these frame manufacturers would do, it is nice how they package the hardware kind of in separate pouches, so to separate out like different sizes and stuff. But I would really like to see, like, as this says here, we need the M3 by 6 millimeter screws. I mean, we can look on here and see they're short screws, but it would be nice if they just had it printed like on each of the sections which ones they were, so you don't have to like sit here and try and decipher which ones are which. But looking at this, it appears that all of these are button heads, so we know we won't need to use these I don't even know what they're called, like the flat ones, countersunk I think is what they're called. So we'll probably need to use these ones here. So that's the way I'm going to go with it, and that's kind of why I wish they would print that on there, because I think this is right, but it could be completely wrong, and then I could find out later down the assembly and have to take it all apart just to fix it. We got to remember here, I'm not that smart. We got both of those, we'll set over here. Pretty sure this is the one we're gonna need for the longer ones. Down there, and then we can set this hardware aside for now. All right, so we've got this on here in the proper orientation according to the instructions. And for just getting this set on here, I'm just going to give this a couple turns because we do have the press nuts in here, so it'll grip that, and we'll just kind of start getting the screws in beforehand. I like to do cross just because you'll know that the rest of the screw holes are lined up. Now you just drop it in, give it a few turns, don't have to worry about it. Might have been easier to put in those short screws first, but that's okay. So it doesn't really say whether or not we need to tighten them all the way down. So going ahead and just assuming that we need to, I'm going to. All right, so we've got those put in there. Fairly certain these are the correct screws. Hopefully they are, so we don't have to redo it later. We got this X-Lock thing here applied onto it. Pretty cool. All right, so moving on to the next step here, it says that we need to secure the arms by tightening the X-Lock arm wedges using the M3 by 16 millimeter screws to lock them in place. And here in the diagram, it shows that these two screws are kind of going through the end. So we basically put the arms in, and then this goes somewhere about here, I think, like that. And then those screws will go into the screw holes here to lock the arms in place. I'm gonna go ahead and put two of the arms in place. As you can see, we have the four screw holes here, which is going to line up with this here. So you'll actually arm in here, arm in here, And you're going to grab this little piece here, and it appears to be the same each way, so I don't think it really matters which way you set it on here. And as we can see here, the screw hole, it even has a little notch cut out right here for the screw to actually make its way in there. And we have just enough of a gap between the arms sitting here for the screw to get in there. These two right here. Okay, yeah, so you can just set it in. What I'm thinking is it might actually be easier here. I think I'm just gonna put that in place, just barely get it started so that way I can still put the arms in. Right, so I've got that lock on there and I just got it barely started. The idea is to still be able to put the arms in. Hold the arms in place, and then I'm just going to start tightening it down. And as you're tightening it down, it kind of pushes those arms in place. I can see them slightly shifting. Actually, shifting quite a bit. And then I'm just going to tighten that down nice and secure. And honestly, even without having any screws in here, like, that is not going to go anywhere. That is actually incredible. I'm impressed. I really am. I thought it was just going to be a bit of a gimmick. All right, so let's grab the other one here, the 2.5mm driver. Get that stuck on there. Barely start getting that threaded in. All the way back down. Slide that in there. That. I am trying to do this while holding it closer just to give a visual representation, making it a little bit awkward, but still doable. So I do find it really interesting that we got that screw that goes directly between, but it makes sense, especially after just seeing how secure that is. Really interesting. And everything in place. Sorry, you can't really see it that well. Tighten this down, I think, a little bit more. That is, it still blows my mind. I cannot believe just, like, I'm yanking on this and there is no movement. And all we have are these two little aluminum pieces with the screw clamping it in place. Amazing. All right, so with step 2 done here, we are moving on to step 3. And what it says is add the split front plate to the assembly and use the M3 by 6mm in the middle to secure it. From the looks of it, we've got the screws here facing down. Then we take the rear plate here, and it does have these little notches cut out, which I believe it's for that, even though these screws are actually kind of below the line of the arms. I believe it's just there just in case. But anyway, so we'll take this notches down and lay it right on top like that. And now we are going to take the M3 by 6 screw, which we've already used 4 of them. They are the screws here. As you can see, it barely makes its way through the carbon, but all we really need to do is just get it screwed into this aluminum piece here. So that'll be plenty. Apologize, I know some of these camera angles are really bad to see what I'm doing, but trying my best to keep everything in frame. All right, so I did notice just a little bit of an off-centering here, but if you're off-center a little bit, you can apply just a bit of force and kind of scoot that to match up your screw holes. And now step 4 is the FPV camera mounts. And what it says here is use the M3x6mm button head screws once again to secure the standoffs and the FPV camera mounts to the split plates. Use the M3x16mm through the side arms into the standoffs. Okay, so what it is saying now is that we're again going to grab those same small button head screws. Oh crap, I just dropped a couple. And from what I'm seeing on here is we need 4 of the short ones. And then we need 4 of the... Alright, so here's where I'm getting a little confused, because without these being properly labeled, now I am second guessing myself as to whether or not these should have been the ones used here for the stack. And honestly, I do think that is the case. So that just goes to further solidify, in my opinion, the need to have these labeled on the packaging so we know where to put them. All right, so I do think that we need to use these ones instead of these for this part here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just take those out and swap them. Just going to do this one at a time. That way nothing slides out of place. All right, so we got those switched out. And I guess that honestly makes more sense. Looks like more proper height there to set a stack on there. So I guess kind of an oversight by me, but at the same time, it still does kind of drive home that point that I really wish these manufacturers would actually just take that little tiny extra step and just print exactly which ones they are on the packaging or the hardware. Is that so much to ask? Is it? Maybe it is. Maybe I'm just being a little too over analytical. All right, back to the build. All right, let's refresh my short memory here. We need the 4 small screws and the 4 bigger screws here. So 2 small in the front for the camera plates and 2 small in the back for those 2 standoffs. I'll go ahead and mention that the front of the frame is obviously the lower portion here, and we can see that we have these little keyholes here to hold the camera plates in. Flip this over here, and then we'll just take this small little screw and secure this camera plate in place. All right, so there is a right and a wrong way to apply this on here. So this way is the correct way, but if we take it off and actually just flip it upside down and we try and put it in that way, just to give you a visual, the screw holes won't line up. So if you happen to put it in upside down, that will be your indicator there. So all you'll have to do in that case is just flip it around and it lines up. Not tightening everything down super tight, because I will go back through one by one and apply some Loctite to the screws that will need it. And there we go. We've got these awesome looking camera plates on. Big fan. All right, and referencing our instructions here again, we'll need 2 more small screws for the rear standoffs here. And you won't need to worry about which standoffs you grab here, because they are all the same size, 20mm. For this one, I'm actually just going to pop the screw in first and then just secure the standoff to it. That is my preferred way to get standoffs started. All right, so we've got a total of 6 standoffs to put on here. So we've got 2 more that are going to need to go here, and those are actually going to go through those holes in the arm, further securing them in place, even though these little side screws are amazing and I already have them locked in place. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the remaining standoffs. One by one, we'll just go ahead and start putting in these screws ahead of time. Since this is actually pretty thick here, those screws only give us a little bit of space here for the standoffs, which is plenty. As for the thickness of this, I will grab my calipers shortly and we will take a look at the measurements. All right, so I got those screws in. I did have to go off camera here for a second because I had one arm right here that just seemed to not want to line up right. So what I actually found is just loosening up this little side plate screw here a little bit gave me just enough wiggle room to get it lined up perfectly. All the other ones were just fine, but one was off, and honestly that was probably an error on my part. All right, so let's go ahead and put the rest of the standoffs on now. I'm just going to hand tighten them for now. All right, it's starting to look like a drone frame here. We've got all the standoffs on. We've got the camera plates. We've got the screws there for our stack. Let's go ahead and see what the next step is here. So moving on to step 5 here, it says secure the top plate to the assembly by using the M3 by 6mm button head screws in the front and the M3 by 6mm countersunk head screws in the back. Okay, so we do have a couple countersunk ones that I did see earlier, and it is saying to use those in the back. So looking at the little diagram here, these 4 screws here are the small button head ones, and then here in the back we have 4 more. Same size, but they are countersunk. So it appears that in the bag they give you the exact number of screws, so be mindful not to lose them. I actually did drop one and I had to go on the hunt for it there. All right, so let's go ahead and grab the top plate. I'll plate on as such. And taking a closer look here at the top plate, you can see we got just the normal screw holes here for the front. But here, these back 4 actually have the kind of grooves cut out here for the countersunk screws. So that way they will be flush with the top of the plate. And those will be the only screws that I put in here for the top plate, just because, I mean, I'm going to be building this quad soon. We do have one more step here. It says GoPro mount. So add the GoPro mount and the spacer plate together with a M3 by 8mm screw and finish the build by sticking the battery pad and the strap. All right, so what it's saying here, we have this little like groove that matches the cutout here. So that would just go right in place and lines up with that screw hole right here. So you would just take that countersunk screw and toss it in right there. And there that is, right on there. So definitely an interesting design, but like I said, I don't use the adjustable GoPro mounts. So I'm not sure how much I'm gonna really make use of that. I'll probably just print up my own fixed GoPro mount and just use those 4 holes to mount it on, to be honest. And that's it for the build. All right, guys, as I mentioned earlier, I will go ahead and give some measurements. Got my calipers here, and we are reading for an arm exactly 4.5mm. And for the thickest part of the frame here, which is connecting the 2 bottom plates together, we get exactly 9.5mm. The entire thickness here is 31.7mm. And probably the most important part of all, let's go ahead and just see how much this frame altogether weighs. Currently we're sitting at 104, but we didn't use all of the hardware, so I'm going to go ahead and use the rest of it there. And I know I'm not going to be using the stock battery pad, but just to keep it accurate for what comes in the box, we'll go ahead and throw that one on, which brings us up to 114 grams. If you wanted to include the battery strap, that would bring us to 122 grams. And the final piece, if you wanted to include the motor screws that came with the frame, that brings us to total of 132 grams. So overall, I'm really excited to get a build going for this. And what I think I'm going to do is repurpose the iFlight Blitz ESC and a JBF7 V2 flight controller that I have in a old QAV-S build that's kind of beaten up. So I'm just going to kind of move that build over to this frame here. I was running HD0 on that build, but I did kill that VTX in the process of running that frame. So what I'm actually going to be putting in this is a Nebula Pro. So I will be on DJI for it. But that's really all I have for this video here. I just wanted to assemble the frame and just do a little measurements and just kind of see how it went putting it together, and thought it would be fun. So yeah, let me know what you think about this frame in the comments below. Are you planning on purchasing this one? Are you planning on just kind of letting this one pass you by? I'd like to know what everyone kind of thinks about this frame below. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for the next video coming out maybe within a week or two, because I am going to be going to Heron's Minefield this weekend. I will actually be leaving tomorrow at some point to check into my hotel and be ready for that. So I'm super excited. but I will get this build video happening in the near future. And that's all I have. So thank you guys for watching, and hopefully I see you in the next one.